Alright, Young Justice episode 18, and I am really happy about this one because we finally reintroduced my favorite DC character. If you don't know who I'm referring to, Clarion is basically a combination of the Joker and Loki. He's like the Joker and Loki in a blender, basically, and he's just this demented, bratty kid who happens to have really creepy supernatural devil powers. And I initially thought that he was like a teenager because they called in the first season. He wants the tower on, not the tower. He wants the helmet of fate on Doctor Fate's helmet. Basically probably just because he wants it because he can have it. And at one point somebody, I forget who, calls him a kid, but I thought they were saying that because he was like a teenager, but no. Somebody officially told me that canonically he's like 10 years old. So he's literally a bratty child with demonic powers, and it is so awesome. And he's just so much fun to watch. He's really creepy, and he argues with his cat. Like he has this familiar who's basically a cat, and he argues with her, and he keeps getting. One of the funniest running gags is that he keeps getting words wrong and mispronouncing things, and that she'll correct him. She doesn't talk, but they will basically have arguments where he'll be like, and damn it, you know what I said, and it's really funny. Also, they're trying to name the operation because what they're doing is they're kidnapping teenagers to find the Medellin Inn. And he decides to call it Operation Rutabaga. I have no idea why, but for some reason, Operation Rutabaga. I like I said, he's canonically 10, so it actually does track with something that a 10-year-old would think of. But whenever one of these kids doesn't give him what he wants, he puts them in this like really monstrous, disturbing blob monster, and this basically kind of just was a giant version of the Blob with like human faces. And you know that one episode of Doctor Who where the person kept sucking the people in, and you would eventually see it's that same thing, and it's really disturbing. So the team goes out to stop him. I'm not really sure why they think that they can do anything against a literal immortal being who has, like, again, demonic powers, but they actually put up a good fight. They temporarily lose Wonder Girl, and that was sad, but they try their best. And Zatanna is like, I gotta go help them because I know him, and he's gonna rip them apart. But he also rips her apart at one point, but we'll get to that in season 4. So she tries to sneak in undetected, but he can see her because, as he points out, he's not human. The humans can't see her, but he's like, I'm not human, I can see you. So I don't know why she thought that was gonna work again. Knowing this series, Zatanna does not exactly make great choices, but again, get to that later. So she does manage to banish him, and she sends him back to the Tower of Fate. And this is really interesting. She traps him to where he can't leave the tower, and that's where I guess season 4, when they decide to summon him, comes in because he was trapped in the Tower of Fate. So that's really cool because they play the same plot line in Young Justice Action, which is obviously my favorite episode. Actually, I haven't watched any other episodes of Young Justice Action, mostly because that's the only episode I was interested in. But they rescue the teens, including Tula, who is, not gonna lie, basically Kita from Atlantis. They were even voiced by the same person. But she is a fish mutant, and Beast Boy realizes, oh my god, she can't breathe, I gotta get her into the water. So he puts her underwater, and somehow the ship knows to adjust itself to give her breathing room or something. That's really interesting, actually. Um, Meanwhile, in much worse off news, Dr. Jace comes to Violet and says, "Hey, we have a problem. I ran your DNA because I was trying to figure out where you came from and what happened." And Violet casually mentions to them, "Oh, is this about me killing Brienne's parents?" I'm like, wait, did Dr. Jace know that? Because you just told Dr. Jace that you murdered his parents, and I'm not really sure that's a good idea. But evidently, Dr. Jace did know that somehow. But Dr. Jace is like, "No, this isn't about that. I ran the DNA, and you're dying," which actually makes sense because keep in mind, Violet, the body that they're in is not theirs. It is a corpse, and corpses rot and they fall apart. So it makes sense that at some point their body is going to reject them and rot and fall apart. So it's sad, but it actually makes sense to me. So Violet becomes really distraught, and they go off and they blow off the team, and they start hanging out with Harper, and they kiss. And I'm like, oh, that's new, that's cool. So that's really cute. I don't think the relationship lasts, as far as I remember, but that's really neat. And I hope they do come up with a season 5, just so that we make sure, this is not a permanent thing. I'm surprised though that Violet, the mother box, can't just heal itself. Like, the mother box doesn't have anything to cleanse itself. Because if you remember, Violet cleansed Victor of their father box's influence. Of his father box's influence, and took all the negative stuff out of his father box. So I'm surprised they can't do the same thing for their mother box. If their mother box is dying, why not just like fix it? Maybe it's not that simple. Maybe the body's rejecting them. I don't know. Uh but that's it for today. We meet my favorite character, and we find out that Violet is dying, and naturally they do not want to tell the rest of the team because they're freaked out and they don't know what to do. But this was really fun, and unfortunately, I don't think Clarion comes back for the rest of the season. But we will get the child arc in season 4, so don't you worry. He is not gone permanently, and I will definitely get to talk about him more in the future. But that's all for today.